I feel like we're going to like be in like an episode of like Good Times or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or going back to like Coolie High. Because I don't know about y'all, but when I listen to this particular track, that's kind of like what it always brings me to. And then it's crazy too. When we had the conversation to talk about this said track, and you was like, yo, let's talk about this. And I'm not for nothing. I was kind of like, but we talk samples. Why are we talking about this? Because it's a sample. Mind blown. All right. Can do. Hey, I just want to put this out here that this episode of Beat Connection is filmed in front of a live studio audience. Hey, and today,
shout out to Norman Lear for the budget.
All right.
Hey. So to my left, your right, depending on how you see him being here and absorbing his information, we have guest starring. To my left, singer-songwriter, producer
Alexa Gold,
and reoccurring special guest host on the bottom,
Azrael DiCaprio. Waldo Squad is in the building.
All right.
And y'all know me, I'm like the pretend star of the show, you know what I'm saying? At least I try to be in my own head or whatever. I'm your man, Mr. Nobody, the can do kid, Shizz. And so with all that being said, we're gonna go ahead and pack our bags and go over to Coolie High and try not to get whooped and for not doing our homework by Pops. I'm gonna go ahead because I already know who wanna go first. Y'all don't know who wanna go first, but I know who wanna go first. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this gentleman to the bottom go ahead and get it. And like I said, we are filming in front of a live studio audience.
So you gave me first of all, I always love your intros.
Oh yeah. I tried. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I always love your intros. One, because it sets the tone for the episode. Two, because more often than not, you take me right where I want to go without me saying a word to you.
Oh.
Camp Lo got their start. I forget the name of this. I forget which movie it was. I want to say it was The Great White Hype. I could be mistaken. They had a record called Coolie High. And the reason I wanted to bring this up was because this is before This Is It, Luchini, even gets to the airwaves. The reason I wanted to bring it up though, because we talk what? We talk samples. Coolie High, the record, the Camp Lo record, originally they wanted to use a sample of Michael Jackson's Lady in My Life. Couldn't clear it.
Refer back to our early episodes.
Couldn't clear it. So then they go to a Janet record. I forget the name of the record, but they spoke about it in that interview. You can find it on YouTube. They moved to a Janet record. Still can't clear the sample.
Refer back to our early episodes.
So what do they do to get the record up? Interpolation. They replay it.
Refer back.
Through interpolation, they're able to clear it and use it for the Great White Hype soundtrack. I just wanted to throw that out there because you referenced Coolie High, and I was like, oh, well, that was the point I wanted to make. Let me leave it there. Now, before I go knee deep into Luchini, because I first of all, I love that record. That record is so celebratory. Like, it's one of those. It's a theme music. It's almost like it's almost like our generation's Diamond in the Back Sunroof type. That's the mood you're in when that record comes on. In pre-production, before we started recording, Lex and I were having a conversation about perfection, expecting artistic perfection from the artists that we like. In hip hop, the structure of a verse and the rhyming patterns in a verse get critiqued so often. One of the members from Camp Lo, and I can't remember which one, said, I purposely changed my rhyming pattern because I get bored with the traditional A-B rhyme scheme that most artists do. So I purposely stay on beat, but I try not to rhyme. Do you understand how innovative that is?
Wow.
It's funny that you don't even see the innovation while you're in it. You don't see it until later on. What's the date stamp on Luchini, Shizz?
Date stamp on Luchini is 1997, released in 97, recorded in 96.
Recorded in 96. Let's go with that. Recorded in 96. We are in 2021, almost 22. The disruptor, there's a saying, I heard it from Paul Heyman, used to run ECW here in Philadelphia.
Not Paul Heyman.
All my wrestling fans know who that is.
Hey.
He said, the person who disrupts the system rarely sees the benefits of it. It's the people after you that reap the benefits of your disruption.
Yeah.
We don't look at Camp Lo
people out there. That's when y'all supposed to clap.
We don't look at Camp Lo like that, because to the untrained eye, Camp Lo might be a one-hit wonder. At the Beat Connection, we don't operate in one-hit wonders. We respect Camp Lo for their contributions.
Right.
Without Camp Lo, you don't get the clips. You can hear the clips. You can hear the Camp Lo influence when you listen to Pusha T and Malice rap. Sorry, no Malice, because he's saved now, so no Malice. When they rap, you can hear that Camp Lo influence, even if they don't hear it themselves. There's a similarity there. As much as we love Styles and Kiss for going back and forth, that's their thing. That's now called the Styles and Kiss thing. Camp Lo was doing that on Luchini and making it sound amazing. Amazing. And it was almost effortless. There's a new kid out, new artist. His name is Akeem Ali. He had a record called Kimi Casanova. It was a viral hit. You might have seen the video, you may not have. When I heard it, I was like, oh, this is like when Camp Lo dropped Luchini. Because it took you back to an earlier time. It was like rap going back to the 70s. If rap was in the 70s, like peak 70s, not 78, 79 when hip hop was in its infancy, but like 72, 73, this is what hip hop would sound like. And that's what I've always loved about Luchini. That's what I've always loved about the Camp Lo sound. Lex, I'm gonna give the floor to you. There's a lot more I want to say about that, but I don't want to be a mic hog.
No, I'm glad that you started off this conversation, because for me, when I approach, the research that we do, a lot of times I like to see the live performances. I like to check out the live performances, see how they are, see how they perform, because I'm an artist, and I really enjoy seeing like how are people on stage, aside from like hearing the recording and maybe even aside from like the interviews, how are they actually on stage? And going back and revisiting these songs, a lot of these people I didn't have the chance to see live. But Camp Lo is still touring to this day. And when I watched some of their performances, especially of course for this song, they refer back to, they start off with Adventures in the Land of Music. So they start off with that, like the DJ is playing that song, they kind of, like two-step a bit, and then they segue into, Luchini. And it's always crazy to hear it, because to this day, the crowd goes crazy. Every time the transition happens, you can hear the crowd just it's so crazy. That's how much this song is still a staple to this day. Then granted, we're not that far removed. I mean, it's only the 90s, right? We're not that far removed, but considering how easy it is for songs to just kind of like peak and then, then we kind of forget about it. Yeah, they come and go, artists come and go. It's amazing that we have classic material, or songs that have become classic material like this, and people are still going crazy over these songs. So for me, one of the biggest things about like seeing them, still performing, still touring, still putting out music, is really just, I can't even imagine, I wouldn't call them a one-hit wonder, but I can only imagine what it feels like to know that at least one of your songs, like, everybody loves. At least you have a song that's like a certified hip hop classic. I just can't.
Can I chime in? I'm glad you brought back the one hit wonder thing, because one thing I wanted to say is, in hip hop, I don't believe in one hit wonders. You might have that one big hit, but if you can rap, that doesn't go away. You might not be as respected in terms of pop culture, but Camp Lo is beloved,
right,
by us.
Right.
80 Blocks from Tiffany's with Pete Rock is one of my favorite albums of the last few years. Both versions. I think they did two. But to your point, it has to feel like euphoria to have one of your records just be the theme song for a generation. Like, Luchini is one of those, like, it just doesn't get old.
It just doesn't get old.
It's almost like Before I Let You Go.
Yeah.
Not to compare the two records, but that feeling you get when it comes on, it's like every time it's just like, as soon as the sample drops, it's like, oh my God, this is.
I'm gonna give you a little pushback real quick, just to create some conversation, right?
Don't be disrespectful.
For the people out there, right, that haven't realized that we are still filming in front of a live studio audience, the two tracks that we're discussing is Camp Lo's Luchini, This Is It, off of their debut album Uptown Saturday Night, which was this particular track was produced by DJ Ski, and this, like we said earlier, recorded in '96, released in '97. They sampled the Dynasty track Adventures in the Land of Music off of the title album Adventures in the Land of Music, which was the second album released by Dynasty, with the producer of Mr. Repeat Offender, Leon Silvers III, which was released in 1980. So I say all of that, right? So I'm gonna make a less than a handful of points real quick, and now I got a question for the panel, right? If you will.
Let's go.
Okay.
So again, I've said it a few times before, and for the people out there that don't know, we have loads of content. We have loads of it that hasn't even been put out yet. And I say all that to say that in my mind, I'm making up a list of repeat offenders in a good way, though. I would probably say at the top of that list currently is Ahmad Jamal.
Oh yeah.
Number 2 is probably a Mr. Kanye West. Coming in at third, probably Just Blaze. Number four would be Leon Silvers III, because I feel like, when we dig in our bags and dig in our crates and we happen to find these particular modern day sounds, and we do dig back into our history, we always find out that sounds were coming from one of those four individuals, or Kanye was borrowing from, because Kanye's sample heavy as well. Excuse me. Now, again, we'll touch Leon Silvers and all that here in a second, but I want to jump back into, like I said, I'm gonna give you a little pushback, right? Just for the fun of it. You know what I'm saying? On your whole Camp Lo one hit wonder take. In my mind, you know what? I relate Camp Lo to Aha, 80s group that did Take On Me. Remember that song? Take On Me.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I would challenge anybody, right? And again, not in this panel right here, because I think it's safe to say that we know. But I would challenge anybody, right, to name another track from Aha, right? But then also I would throw the same question out there. This is not the question I want to ask, but just I would throw that question out there to any, I don't want to say hardcore fans, but like casual fans, just fans of music. Name another Camp Lo track outside of Luchini, right? And I say that to say, was that record Luchini bigger than the group themselves?
Yeah. No.
Right.
So save your breath.
Go. I want to hear what you got to say.
When I say they're not one-hit wonders, I'm not talking about whether or not they had another song that people remember.
Oh no. I mean, like when I say when and again, this is just playful banter.
Yeah, I'm with you.
When I say, because again, I think the problem in hip hop is because if something reaches so high, for example, like 50 Cent, right? 50 Cent made Get Rich or Die Trying. And because that initial record that album was touted so high and it was so successful, that's all anybody was looking for was another Get Rich or Die Trying. Or like when DMX released his Dark and Hell is Hot. In some conversations, people say his progression as an artist or his albums kind of digressed as he went forward, because they were still wanting that the bar is set so high, and they disregard everything else that was done after that. So that's why I asked, like, one, was that record just so big that it eclipsed Camp Lo as a whole? And again, I asked that question too because I can remember watching an interview, right, of Camp Lo, and also an interview of Aha, and don't quote me on the Aha take, but I believe I remember seeing an interview that said like they legit did not want to do that song anymore, like because they were just so burnt out on performing.
I've heard a lot of artists say that.
And I feel like that, and I'm gonna let you go in a second. Yeah. But I feel like that, and again, because I watched this interview with Camp Lo, and again, I could be absolutely wrong, and this is just my opinion. But when I watched them do it, it felt like they was just going through the numbers. Now their energy could have been off that day. They, you know what I'm saying, whatever. But I felt like they was just kind of just going through the motions of doing it because they were so burnt out on doing Luchini. Now, granted, like y'all said, the people, they yearn for it. We want it. That's what we want to hear. But it's in a sense, it's like, don't want to say you're being disrespectful to the artist, because I'm like I said, we know they have stuff other than Luchini, but it's like, because that record was so big and that's all people want from them, does that?
So a better comparison would be Joe Budden.
Pump It Up.
Pump It Up is Joe Budden's peak in terms of commercial success, right? In the circle of the culture, though, when you know, Joe is considered one of the greatest MCs of all time. Not top 10, I'm not putting him in that tier, but in all of the conversations, his name typically does come up as one of the more talented MCs. That's the point I was making with Camp Lo. Yes, that one hit is probably bigger than them. In terms of hip hop, though, they are beloved for what they brought to the game, because that album is a cult classic. Mm-hmm. Luchini is a monumental hit. Take the hit away, that album is still amazing. And that's what I mean by not calling him a one-hit wonder. Like, a one-hit wonder, by definition, is all you give me is this one hit. In my eyes, and I could be wrong, people's opinion differs. If you can give me a classic album, or at least a cult classic album, on top of the hit, you did your job. You did your job. So that's what I was saying in terms of Camp Lo. Like I don't view them as one-hit wonders because that album is great. Right. Just because the masses didn't gravitate to it the way the culture did, that didn't mean Camp Lo didn't do their job. And they continue to do their job now because those albums with Pete Rock are amazing. And that's why I'm always glad that the streaming era does exist. Or I won't say the streaming era, but the internet era of being able to readily give new music to your fans is important. I can't say enough about just how important it is to continue to champion these artists. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Mexico, what you got to add to that?
Yeah, I was actually thinking for them to work with Pete Rock, or for Pete Rock to want to work with them and produce an album for them, speaks a lot to his respect for them and their lyrical ability and their artistry. Because I mean, when we talk about Uptown Saturday Night, you know, depending on how old you are and, you know, how you've come up in terms of like hip hop, you know, some people may be more familiar with the album than others, and that's cool. That happens. Luchini is definitely it's a classic, and I understand, you know, why people want to hear it, because also, and this is something that I don't think we touch on enough in the episodes, but like, let's talk about musicality. Mm-hmm. What happens is you have a song like Adventures in the Land of Music, which is already an incredibly musical, melodic, I mean, those horns that like you have that, and that is like it makes for sampling. Like it just
the job is done. The sample did the job for you. All you gotta do is rap.
Right. So when you have these producers who are able to hear, you know, the musicality in these records, because not every record is getting sampled. I mean, let's be very clear.
Right.
Well, sampling is a thing that is integral to the culture of music, but not every song is getting sampled. And not every part of every song is getting sampled. You're hearing the musicality and Adventures in the Land of Music, and you're taking this part and maybe putting some maybe more like some added tone to the bass, or you adding like some more kick to the drums, and then you're and because really it wasn't like too much was added, and that's no shade to, you know, Ski, like he did his job on this one. But I'm just saying, like, I think a lot of times what happens is people feel that too. They feel the musicality in this music, so like they gravitate towards the music that's going to like bring out the emotion and bring out, like, you know, oh my God, those horns, and like they hear that stuff. And so I think that's one of the reasons why Luchini still is able to be felt as deeply as it is, not just because of you know, the lyricism and everything, and the style of what they were bringing, you know, like that whole 70s sort of like funk-esque sort of vibe, but also, as it was mentioned earlier, that celebratory sort of thing. Adventures in the Land of Music, it's like a celebration, you know, and they just took that energy and, you know, invoked that into Luchini for like the hip hop generation,
right?
You know, so it's just like, I think it's an incredible sort of like, you know, homage, if you will, to what Dynasty did for that song. Yeah. And they were kind of like, you know, as you mentioned earlier, Ree, in terms of Before I Let Go by Maze, you know, like you have these staple songs, and definitely in hip hop you have staple songs. Yeah. And I'm sorry, you know, like Luchini is that staple song.
No, Luchini is up there. Luchini is on the playlist.
It's up there, man. Like everybody that hears it, you get it brings out a feeling in you. And as an artist, that's all you can ask for.
It is a very euphoric sound to that track. And again, I always want to make sure when I bring up points to, I always want to give love to the producers, because again, I always say, like with music, you have for lack of better terms and words, you have lyrics and you have a beat. And I always compare that to art, to where you have the picture and then you have it framed. The art is, if you frame up a Van Gogh Starry Night piece, people are going to be like, oh my God, Van Gogh, Van Gogh, Van Gogh, Van Gogh. But when you look at the picture as a whole, it's framed. It can be framed in a suede, midnight blue matte that's spliced together to add to that photo. But because nobody's really like, oh my God, look at the framing on that. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like sometimes with music, we hear the lyrics and we hear the song and we just automatically think, or for example, right, the Can't Blow Luchini track, you know what I'm saying? You say, oh my God, Can't Blow, they did the lyrics and they did the beat. Like, it was just them that did it all together, you know what I'm saying? Not giving love to, you know what I'm saying, to Ski for doing his diligence, digging in the crates and being like, yo, again, imitating, pulling, you know what I'm saying, copying greatness, pull out this Leon Silver's track and it's like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna take this, morph it and transform it. And again, like we said, you don't gotta add too much to this gumbo, but I'm gonna add a little bit more extra, you know what I'm saying?
That joint just you know what I'm
saying, to make it do what it do in the same hand with Leon Silvers, like I said, because he's a repeat offender on this show, y'all. If y'all gonna see more and more episodes as they come out, Leon Silvers is definitely a repeat offender on here. And for him to do what he did with the Dynasty song Adventures in the Land of Music, but also with what he did as a whole for Solar Records, he was like the in-house guy. You know what I'm saying? He like, for a lack of, I don't want to say he carried them, but as far as production,
in terms of songwriting, he
was the man. Yeah, Leon Silvers was practically the backbone, if you will, to like that Solar Records kind of movement. And it wasn't very long, but from he did "And the Beat Goes On" by the Whispers. That's a huge track right there. And he worked with Shalimar. He did a ton of work. So Leon Silvers is the man. But also I wanted to say this too before I pass the baton. I love Adventures in the Land of Music. Alex, like you said, the horns, the rhythm, the sound, and all of that. I love the beat of it all. I could just listen to that over and over again on a loop. But also, it speaks to what I've always said about music. If you listen to the content and the lyrics of that song, music has no color. It has no, music has no region. Music is relatable. It's the one language that everybody speaks is music.
And it's a love language.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a love language. Oh, I love that. It's a love language.
It is, because like when I was listening to the lyrics of Adventures, it was almost like listening to a love song. Listening to a love song about music through music. You know what I mean? And it is beautifully written. And
music is for life.
And it made me dig into some interviews of Leon Silvers, and I came across this quote that he made, and he said, and it made me listen to Adventures again and just appreciate the bass line of it. He was like, when I write songs, I treat my bass like it's the keyboard. My melodies are all based around my bass line.
Oof, okay.
The innovation it takes to even come to that, to make that your formula. And like some hot tag to you in a second. Just to piggyback off Sean's point of how much he contributed to Sound of Los Angeles or Solar Records. He came up with that formula because him and Dick Griffey were trying to combat against the disco sound. They wanted to take R&B back a little closer to the Motown era.
I love disco.
Right. But when you're trying to separate yourself, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Right.
So they were trying to slow it down. Leon's bass playing was their formula for how to slow down the music to kind of bring it back to the Motown era. And if you listen to some of those Dynasty records, some of those Shalimar records that he did, you can hear the ancestry from Motown to Solar. And like you said, it was a short-lived run, but the run is still there.
Oh yeah.
There. You know what I mean? And they're still contributing to this day. There's a documentary called Sample This that the Silvers are on, and
I'm sure
coincidentally some of the Silvers are sitting down with the Incredible Bongo Band.
Oh wow.
And talking about like how generationally sampling has kind of bridged the gap between their families. So Lex, I'm gonna tag you in, but I definitely want to get that point off before.
Good point.
Yeah, that's an amazing point, Ashley. I'm glad you brought that up because, we because we are in the industry to that extent, we don't realize like what sampling has done for the artist and the way it brings the artists together and kind of bridges those gaps between like different generations. I mean, we're talking about the intergenerational sort of connections, like the older people recognize the sample and like the younger people like are into it because of the hip hop. It's sampling is so important. It can't be like understated. It's doing so much more than I think people like even understood as they were doing it, like
bridging
how important sampling is. But I wanted to bring this up because so Camp Lo got this track that was made for them by Ski Beats, right? But Ski actually, so he started off as like an artist, of being managed. He was an artist in the group that was actually being managed by Dame Dash.
Talk about it.
Dame Dash started managing, one of the biggest legends of hip hop, Jay-Z. So while Reasonable Doubt was being made,
let's go.
Dame Dash had asked Ski, to contribute some tracks to it. So I know he did Dead Presidents and Feeling It, which by the way, I know particularly Feeling It samples Ahmad Jamal, a repeat offender.
Episode coming soon.
Right. But Jay-Z did hear the track for Luchini. He wanted it. And, obviously Ski promised it to Camp Lo. But it's very interesting though, because I was like, I'm trying to imagine, could I hear
Jay going in on that?
Yeah. I personally, I don't know.
All right, freeze.
Okay.
You 1000% can hear Jay-Z on it. You know why?
Okay.
Because Feeling It exists. Because Who You With exists.
Okay.
Jay has songs that kind of sound like that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The better question is, does Jay-Z make a better version of Luchini?
You know what? Not for nothing. Against nothing. Because we know Jay for who he is, and Jay is known worldwide, and we love Jay.
Yeah.
I don't know if he does that better than Camp Lo.
No, not as a record. I think he freestyles over it and kills it.
Right.
But as a record, I don't know.
Yeah, because it wasn't just. It's not just what they say. Like, obviously, it's not how they flow over it, but it's what they're saying. It's those allusions to
the persona of
the persona, everything. It's that whole vibe.
It's
the grooviness of it. Like,
and see, that's the thing, because Jay was smooth. Jay was super smooth.
Mm-hmm.
they made it seem like that. Yo, they were almost like two pimps.
Right.
It was like listening to two pimps have a conversation.
It's like a certain bounce to it, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, and when I say pimps, I'm not talking about the content, because the content, content is the content.
Yeah, but
the style in which they're talking, it's
like their particular vocal, like their vocal tones, like the way, like you know it better than I do, you know. But
no, it's the delivery of it. It's
the delivery.
Like Shizz said, it's the bounce of it. It's intangible. It's intangible. It doesn't really matter what they're saying. It's how they're saying it that just makes it sound like you back in the 70s and you listening to Youngblood Priest on the corner talking to somebody, and it's like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, so the album artwork for the album, right, Uptown Saturday Night, was borrowed from Marvin Gaye's album cover, I Want You, based off the painting called The Sugar Shack. And I feel like think of like cereal and milk, peanut butter and jelly, like donuts and coffee, or sliced bread, or whatever, pants with pockets, right? I feel like that cover with that album and that track, home run.
Right.
Yeah.
And it puts you in that said time period, or that era of time, to where, like, that's when, again, like I said, when I hear that song, I feel like I'm in an episode of Good Times.
But
when I see that, no, go.
I'm sorry, because one thing I don't want to take away from Camp Lo, especially with this particular song, is that it wasn't grimy either on the low. Like, I think like people hear it and they're just kind of like, oh, it's just some like smooth, like, you know, pimp-ish. But like, if you really listen to the lyrics, or if you like read the lyrics,
it's heavy. It's heavy. It's heavy.
Low down, like grimy stuff too. Like, it's like a mix of things, you know.
And you know what's crazy? Like, they're almost like proteges of Diggable Planets. Like, they went on tour with Diggable Planets, and I think it's Suede that said he kind of patterned himself after Ish from Diggable Planet. So it's funny to me that artists, and that's the beauty of art. I think that's the point I'm trying to get to. That's the beauty of art. You can be all things through your art.
Right.
You can deliver something really smoothly, and it be the grimiest thing in the world. You can be around the most conscious people in the world, and still, depending on what the music dictates, you can go in this other lane.
Right.
And that's what I love about Camp Lo, because, and I beg anybody watching this to listen to that 80 Blocks from Tiffany's album with Pete Rock. It's completely different from Luchini. It's completely different. Like, and that's what I mean about, like, just not pigeonholing artists.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're so easily, as a people, not we, the collective, we as a people can so easily be programmed into what we think is good or what we think is hot. You miss a lot waiting for the radio to tell you what to do.
Right.
Waiting for the playlist to tell you what to do.
Right.
Waiting for the algorithm to tell you what to do. Sometimes you just gotta dig.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta dig. When Camp Lo dropped Luchini, I wasn't pressed for the Uptown album. I didn't get to the Uptown album until later.
Right.
Because my ears had matured. All I knew at 12 was Luchini.
Right.
By the time I hit my 20s and I'm digging into this a little more, it's like, I wouldn't have appreciated this when I was 12.
Right.
That album is amazing. Like, so you know what I mean? Like, as classic as this record is, their contribution to hip hop is just as classic.
Yeah.
So I was glad to do this just to give them their flowers.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's safe to say we got final thoughts dropping, or you got anything else you want to add to that, or?
Oh man.
So it was Geechee that patterned himself after Ish from Thinkable Planets, and it was Sonny Chiba was the brother who said that he hated the rhyme patterns and all that and tried to go different. I remember he said that he admired Meth, and Meth was one of the MCs he tried to pattern himself after.
Oh
but
wow.
He was like, but you can't pattern yourself after Meth because that's Meth. So you take different elements.
Right.
It takes me back to a quote from Ahmad Jamal, where he said, you pattern yourself after somebody, and if you're fortunate enough, you'll find yourself later on. So you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna just end it there. Shizz, what you got, baby?
Well, you know what? I always go last. So Lex, I'm gonna pass it to you. What you got?
Okay.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I'll just say this. I'm glad that we had the discussion. I'm always about, giving the artists their flowers. They're still working, they're still touring, they're still putting out music, and it just shows me like when it's in you, it's in you. And so, they're still dedicating themselves to the art. And so what they feel, like they need to say, on these records. And, although I am a big fan of Luchini, I am a big fan of that song. Who isn't? But definitely, I remember watching one of their live performances, and before they even got to Luchini, they were going through some of their other songs, and I was listening to it, and I was listening to like the tracks and everything, like the production. I was like, where have I been? Like, I really wasn't checking for them, and it's like it was dope. And I'm like, yo, for them to work with one of my favorites, which is Pete Rock. I'm like, I gotta do.
I'll send you the link.
Look, I gotta go back and I gotta discover and dig deep, dig a little bit deeper, because sometimes even me, and I love like searching for new music, but sometimes I can get a little bit satisfied with like the hits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like,
this is easy.
Yeah, but now I realize like, yo, okay, now I need to go back and actually check out some of their music. And much love to Dynasty, and particularly Leon Silvers and the Silvers family for what they have created as a musical family. For Leon for taking the reins and really guiding everything as well, and creating the kind of career that he had for himself. And Adventures in the Land of Music. I mean, it's just it's just a powerful track on its own. I mean, even if you don't really get into Luchini, man, if you listen to Adventures in the Land of Music, you'll be into it. It's just an incredible song.
That song is almost spiritual.
Oh yeah, it is. Yep.
Okay, well, I guess I'll crack my brain a little bit, give a few words, right? Okay, so again, always make sure to give shout outs to the parties that were involved but are not in the forefront, and always want to give a big shout out to like Ree, you said it one time moments ago, shout out to the engineers, shout out to the producers, the ones who aren't necessarily in the front or in the limelight of everything, but are also big contributors to these hits. Shout out to the people that discover these people, you know what I'm saying? Because again, if like you said, Lex, if Dame doesn't find Ski or however they meet up and he's like, yo, I want you to do this for Jay, then we may, who knows what'll happen.
Oh yeah.
You know, not because I rarely cut you off in your closing statement.
Go for it.
But if Dame doesn't meet Ski, you don't even get their presidents.
Right. And you know what? You actually literally, again, you just took that from me, because I was literally the next thing I was going to say.
My bad.
No, that was literally the next thing, because again, if Dame and Ski don't connect, Ski doesn't connect with Jay to give us their presidents, and I'm feeling it and all that, and then Nate doesn't get a chance to connect or branch off and get with Camp Blow, to give us the sound that we're discussing today. But then you have to bring, again, because everything is a trail, you gotta dig all the way back to Leon Silvers. If Leon Silvers doesn't branch off and try to find a new sound outside of that post disco era from what he did with his family, getting with Solar, forming Dynasty with those young vocalists and creating adventures in the land of music, we don't get what we get today. And the B Connection is not talking about what we're discussing right now. So shout out to all parties involved. Definitely always, again, I want to definitely give a big shout out, because I rarely talk about content when it comes to music, but definitely shout out to the content that was provided in Adventures in the Land of Music, because I always say that's exactly what music is. Music is a universal language amongst all cultures. Everybody speaks the language of music, whether it's beating on a table, playing bongos, whistling, snapping your fingers or whatever. Everybody understands the language of money, but everybody understands the language of music as well. So definitely, again, shout out to the content and the vocals provided in that. And again, just shout out to all parties involved. And I've never stopped listening to Luchini, but thank y'all for introducing me to the sample that gave us Luchini, because again, now I feel like I'm playing them back to back as like one long track. You know what I'm saying? And I'm loving it. I'm here for it.
You playing it the way Camp Lo perform it?
I mean, man, I'm with it. So with all that being said, we are the B Connection. Don't forget that this whole episode was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Sponsored by Norman Lear.
The sponsor, gotta get them sponsors in there. So with all that being said, I guess before we go to our next commercial break, Lex, go ahead and drop your lines, please.
All right, y'all. This is the Beat Connection. Please like, share, subscribe, and make sure to comment. Let us know what songs and samples you want us to talk about next, and don't forget to tune into the next episode.
Real commercial, like, so it's like
you see it with a Quiet Storm voice,
right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I want to order that. I want to order that toaster right now. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, honey, we need a garage door opener at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah, for real. That's when all of them joints come on, too. Shout out to the infomercials, too, man. But with all that being said, once again, we are the
B Connection. Yeah. Stay tuned for the next episode, y'all.
And dude.
Peace.
We don't have. Where's the sign for the laugh track in the woo, for the hot and spicy moments and all of that? And with the sign and be like clap and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We'll add that for the next one.
No, we got to add that in post production.
Oh yeah. You're right. You know what I'm saying?
Peace, y'all.
Can do.